Hey everyone, hey Candid Culture, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much. I got some great gentlemen coming in, and I was gonna change the show tonight to men and money matters and the Dusty. I really wanted to talk about that, but we're gonna leave it to aggressive women, gender roles, and the idea of submission. Especially after last night's RTL, I really wanted to tackle this subject. So let me bring a couple of my men in that are right now, and then we got Sean and we got a couple other gentlemen joining us. 1 second, let me bring Onu and Eric in. I really appreciate y'all joining me. Thank you so much, Onu. Thank you so much, Eric. And Sean should be coming in any minute. And hopefully Kojo can come in, but I know that he is a mover and a shaker and a motivator, and it's definitely a different time zone where he is. So he definitely was like, Crystal, definitely send me the chat, send me the link, but I get it if he can't join me. So hopefully he'll be able to join the next one because that's going to be a big one. So, and here is Mr. Unfiltered. Here is, yes, Mr. Sean. Thank you so much for joining me.
Of course. What's up, everybody?
I did it for this time. So, and, actually, Bronzebird should be coming in too. So that's gonna be fun. So y'all could probably just get it started, and then as Bronzebird does, he might do what he does. So then y'all just sit back. No, I'm just joking.
No, we'll definitely sit back when he gets on.
Right. So after last night's show, as I was talking to you, Sean, I was gonna change it to men and money attitudes and that Dusty conversation we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, let's keep it at this: the aggressive woman in submission, and this idea of what does aggressive look like, and then gender roles and how that translates. So let's get into. I really want to know because in Wahites they talk about it as the angry black woman, and then if a man you're interested in, he's gonna say, oh, she's a little too aggressive. So what does aggressive look like? I'm going to ask Eric. What does aggressive or just a little too aggressive look like to you? What does that? Yeah, how does that look to you?
I think Crystal. Again, thank you for having me on the show. I think it comes in different forms. When you say aggressive, I think one form of aggressive or overly aggressive is being very demanding. And not being respectful of one person's time, the effort, or anything. Meaning, I want what I want, and being vocal about the things that she may want in that relationship, and not considering, him, taking out his time, his effort, to try to build in that relationship. I think that's one form of when it comes to, being demanding and unconsiderate of his time. I'll say it in that way. I think another one, it can be more subtle when it comes to demanding. It's almost like in the relationship, it's not like saying that, telling him to do something, but regardless of the type of communication that you have with him, you still want what you want. You could say it in a polite way. You could say it in a nice way, or whatever the case may be, but you want what you want regardless. And in some men, if he is in love with her or he cares about her, he's going to try to go above and beyond. Not that it's healthy for the relationship, but if you do care for her, have some type of love for her, he's going to try to do it. And sometimes she don't understand that could stress him out, depending on the type of demands that she's asking for. So I think there's just different forms when it comes to being demanding in a relationship. So yeah, no, I just think that just the way of trying to get around or to be able to be a partner, purpose partner, or a partner in a relationship is basically have an opportunity to sit down and have effective communication about what you want, opposed to demanding and just basically saying something because you feel, hey, I'm a female, or we're doing this together, so you should be giving me what I want or what I need. But having that effective communication in those things that you desire, I would say instead of demand, what you desire, and being able to come together and see if that's a good fit or not.
So, Onu, I'm going to ask you because you in these streets, but you are dating with intention. So, what if a woman, she lets you know that she's interested, but she says, "You my man, you my boyfriend" after the second date? I'm gonna keep it a little general because I know that Eric doesn't watch the show that we're watching.
Yeah.
So, but he's the only one. So I'm gonna keep it a little general. But there is somebody that is just is all in. Go Oni.
I mean, I wouldn't say aggressive. I'm thinking, can you hear me?
I am. Mhm.
Okay, so I wouldn't say, well, I guess we need to define like aggressive and assertiveness because again, we're like I think that's the line that we're going through. I if I feel like you're taking the lead in a relationship or you're trying to be the one that's trying to progress things further and I'm not allowed to take that step, again, that could be that can be kind of counterintuitive. I might not feel apprehensive if I feel like if we're dating, the man's supposed to leave the woman if they're in the traditional mindset. I think that's the issue most guys have. I think most men, when it comes to relationships, they always see themselves in the forefront. So it's kind of hard to take a back seat and follow if that's what you want. Now, if you're okay with that, that's fine. I know like that would be someone being more too assertive, especially if if we're not at the same place in the relationship, or if I don't have as strong feelings as someone else. So I've been in those situations where the person's into me more than I'm into them, and they're like, you know what, I want to take things further. I'm making proclamations. I'm like, okay, I'm not there yet, or maybe I don't see you in that particular light. That would be someone's asserting their power to something that you don't have full control. If you're losing control, then it's like hard to stand up for yourself.
So wait a minute now, Sean. I want to go to you because what is the difference between a strong woman and excuse me, assertive, and somebody's just a little too aggressive? And I'm gonna take it besides the person that on the RTL. There's just a strong woman that lets you know what she wants, because a lot of men think that if a woman is like a director level and she comes in and she wears her energy out there and she walks right up to a man at a lounge and's like, "Hey, can I have this dance?" or something like that. Is that assertive, or she's just way too aggressive? Like, give me the difference to you. As Onu said, what's the difference? Give me the difference to you in your eyes, Sean.
Sure. So I guess the scenario that you mentioned, right, in terms of if I'm out someplace and a woman would approach me and ask for a dance or engage me in conversation, I would say that's confidence, right? And there is strength for sure in that. And I personally don't have a problem with that. I don't think most men would be bothered by it. Where the aggressive comes is the next step, right? Because, yeah, typically do men do more of the approaching? Yeah, we do. But it always softens the blow and makes rejection, I guess for us, that's something that plays through our mind, or I would say my mind, definitely. If you see somebody that's attractive, you see a woman, and before you approach her, you want to ensure, or you're looking for cues to see if there is some type of mutual attraction there before you walk up and then potentially get rejected. So if a woman already softens that and approaches me, it's kind of like, okay, now we can see if there's a mutual attraction. It kind of flips the role because we're used to being on the other side of it.
Right.
The aggressive part can happen, depends on what happens next, right? So if the man is now interested, then we engage in mutual conversation. Then okay. So the other part, if there is no interest or initial attraction at the onset, when the woman comes over, it can quickly turn from confidence to aggression, depending on how the man responds, right? So if he tries to, or shows signs of not interest, and then the woman continues to push and press and make other comments, or, continue to push the narrative, or, not wait to see if that man is truly interested, So that's when we're getting on a borderline aggression territory. If she's not reading the room, right? Men, we can do that too. And when we do it, it's aggressive as well. So I would say in that instance, the aggression happens if there's no interest, right? Or if I've displayed some interest, but now you're continuing to push, and take it even further, right? Because that could be another avenue where we get down an aggressive path where you're not letting me now do what most of us like to do, which is now take the ball and run with it, right? You're still guiding the conversation. You're, getting to certain things a little quicker than they need to be. You mentioned a comment like, calling, stake and claim, right? If we're in a place and we just met each other and then, we have a great conversation, perhaps we exchange information. I walk off, you see me dancing with somebody else, and now you're upset and now you're claiming me, and I can feel your eyes and the heat on me across the room. We just met,
Right.
we just met each other. There's no relationship here.
So after 2 weeks, let's say, and I'm calling you my boyfriend, and I'm seeing forever with you, but you've already made that first move, or she's made that first move. Then you guys exchange numbers. So you haven't said that. Listen, in your head, we're just dating. Do you think that she's being aggressive? You're just like, listen. I've only known you for 2 weeks. What are you doing? What do you say to her? What's the next step? Do you just let it go?
It depends. It depends on the tone, the way it's done. If it's tongue in cheek, if it's off balance. Whereas, because sometimes you'll have a fast connection. I've had situations where you meet somebody, you meet a woman, and then you guys just click on all cylinders. You're spending a lot of time together. You're talking. You're sharing information. So it's kind of like an instant connection. And those feelings are reciprocated. Now, if they're not, or if it's, we're not on that same page just yet, throwing that out there too soon, if we don't know each other, there's no other context to our relationship. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot to be thrown out there. And, you would want to be cautious about how you do that, in that situation. Yeah, it could very well be a turnoff.
So a couple of weeks ago, you and Black, I hope he comes in. You guys liked the, a little bit of touching on the leg, a little bit of that sexual energy. Is that not aggressive for a woman to display the sexual energy before you've invited her to?
I think that just comes down to reading the room and how it's going. I don't know that if we are in close proximity to each other and a woman were to touch my leg, I don't know that I consider that aggressive off the back. Now, how far her hand goes on my leg, where we go with that, yeah, that could get into some uncharted waters. But again, it just goes based on the vibe, right? If we're having the vibe and it's going like that, then I might not have an issue with it. But if it's just awkward and all of a sudden, and then I'm starting to get hands everywhere, yeah, that could be a little, off-putting. Depends on who it is.
Eric, I'm going to ask you kind of the same question. If a woman, starts to touch you on the leg, does she show a little bit more? Is that aggressive energy and even a little bit of masculine energy to you?
I was laughing when that is so true. I agree with what he was saying. As well. In addition, I feel it all. To be honest, Crystal, it just depends. It depends, and the reason I say that is because let's say, a woman that I have a great vibe with, and we meet, it happens. Some women you can meet instantly, like he said, which is true. I had that experience as well. You have a great vibe, communicate well, you're clicking, and then you have someone else that you don't have a good vibe with. Then when it comes to the touching of the leg, if you have a great vibe and you both are reciprocate, and you both are feel the same connection, having great conversation. If she, put your hand on your knee, most women do that when they into you, or lean into you, or whatever the case. They want to touch you somehow. If it's not your leg, if you got a beard and they like beards, they want to just touch a beard, or whatever the case may be. But it's something like respectful. You know what I mean? She ain't trying to grab your crotch and you know lip lock you and lip wrestle you and all that stuff like that. But she's just letting you know, I feel that you're interested in me and I'm interested in you. And I think if it's the vibe is both ways, like I said, a hand on the knee, I don't think that's aggressive. But I think if it goes a little farther, then it might seem okay, that's a little too fast, or that could be seen come off as a little aggressive. But just if you're having a conversation and she put a hand on your knee and y'all just having a good vibe of conversation, nah, I don't see that as aggressive. I think if you're out, and I use that example, and you meet someone you're not feeling on that level, and it's just being real, and you express that, but she's ignoring or just saying, "Hey, this is what I want to do," and she's trying to put a hand on your leg or your knee or whatever the case may be, like, "Hey, you trying to smooth talk and like, I'm good, blase, blase." But if she's just trying to do what she want to do and there's no vibe and you're not reciprocating, you're not giving off that energy, then that for some men could be considered or come off as aggressive.
Oh no, I kind of want to ask you this question as well, but I'm going to preface this because, so Eric, there's a show that we watch, Ready to Love, and there's a young lady on there that's very attractive. Like she did not help. She's very doesn't need any help. She's very attractive, but she's very touchy feely to the gentleman without them touching her first. And what's so interesting is a lot of the women that I've been speaking to, they think that she has that masculine energy. So, what do you think of that? If a woman starts to touch you first, I'm going to start with Onu. Is that aggressive or is that a challenge to you?
I would you can say I would say more of a challenge first. I mean, it could be seen aggressive, but I think the what I was trying to pick up about what Eric had to say, there's difference between aggressiveness and assertiveness. And like we're talking about different levels of assertiveness and then we're kind of bleeding into aggressiveness. So there's ways to show if you're interested in somebody by being assertive, like what Sean was saying, talking to someone, approaching, getting someone's attention, giving someone's phone number, getting desk. I mean, that's all said and fine. Once you start going to a certain, when we get to assertiveness, it's like you take the decision away from someone, you tell them exactly how things are going to be. And like we're seeing a contrast between the two based on the character currently talking about. That person is making it very difficult for that person to make a decision because she's already made up her mind that this is the way things are going to go. To me, that's when we start getting to um, aggressiveness and even almost to controlling consent. But just keep it in context between assertiveness and aggressiveness. I think it's okay to, if you're interested in somebody, to show that person their interest. And there's nonverbal cues and verbal cues. The key thing is when you do things in a nonverbal way, you're still going to have to make your intentions known by talking to the person eventually. If you keep things nonverbal, things can backfire on you like sooner rather than later. When you now use nonverbal clues to get someone's attention and then you tell them exactly what you want, again, you can't, there's nothing else, there's nothing high at that point. If we just look at certain people and based on what they're doing, it's kind of hard to see. But once they start saying what their actions are, that's how you can actually know what their intent is. And I guess the difference between the two is now intent. Someone that's being assertive, maybe their intent isn't to sway your decision and make you force you down the way, but if someone's being aggressive, um, I'm sorry, if someone's being aggressive, that's being taken away from you. I apologize. I think I was right. Someone's being aggressive. And that character we're talking about is being aggressive. They're taking that decision away from that gentleman and it's making them uncomfortable, not just with that person, but other people that he's socially around with. And that's the issue that we have.
I hear your point because she's now taking, so if somebody's being too aggressive, she's taking that option away from not just her but the other men around her, and they've decided how they should move in her presence. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah, that, and I actually see that point. And it's something interesting that you said last night on Maria's show is that there is something called like this pretty privilege, and I actually don't see it when a woman is too aggressive, but I do think that it can get confusing if you have given her that feel that you're all in, and then she starts to move. Go ahead, Onu. Go ahead. You're about to
Well,
say something.
again, I guess I can. Yeah, I was speaking in generals. I was speaking. I'm not sure if I got my objective clear, so I'll try to do a better job explaining it there. I think with guys can definitely get overwhelmed, especially with certain type of women, and they're willing to tolerate certain things up to a point based on how attractive they are. If someone deems someone's very attractive, they're going to take a lot. They can tolerate a lot more craziness in this situation than someone else. And again, if that person is not attracted to that person, they're not going to tolerate those things. And based on the way Cornelius is, again, I don't see an alpha male right there. If that was the case, he would have shut that down long before it's gone out. However, he's still invested in that situation. And the reason why I still invest in that situation is a level of attraction. And you kind of see that building in this episode. If he wasn't attracted to her, he would not have allowed the situation to progress the way that it has. And based on just the way men are, people have been saying visual creatures and things like that, I kind of feel like, hey, the more attractive someone is, the more they're willing to tolerate the crazy, maybe not miss the signs. However, there's going to be a breaking point. I don't know when that's going to be, but we're kind of approaching that state where he's going to have to step in and say something. I just don't think Cornelius has the skills in order to properly navigate that situation. Because if we did, she wouldn't have been getting. We see her getting more. We can say that she was assertive, maybe a couple episodes. She's reaching aggressiveness now. She's saying to other people, this is my man, this is my boyfriend. I'm not talking to anybody else. It's making it very uncomfortable for not just Cornelius, but the other guys around to navigate the situation. That's the issue that I was having. If this was Libya, she would have been sent home week one, and that's the fact. The fact that she's still around, you have to admit that, hey, there has to be attractiveness between Cornelius and this woman for this to be going on this long.
So actually, this is my next question, I think, and Sean, you touched on it a little earlier, but to Onu's point, when do you stop entertaining it? So, for example. So if you're like, you just said earlier, a woman that's assertive, I don't mind that. I like the way she takes care of me, or I like the fact that, I like the stuff she does for me. And then you're like, wait a minute, if I start coming off like, why didn't you call me last night? And where were you last night? And just like all of this too much. When do you stop entertaining? Do you keep smiling and letting it go? Or at what point what do you say at that point? At what point do you say, this is a little too much? We're not there yet. Sean.
I think, it's a delicate thing, and it depends on each person, right? It depends on where you draw the line at what disrespect is to you. If we're referencing that show, it would definitely be one for me. Like, if you start having unnecessary demands on my time a little too early on in the relationship, you start to try to dictate when and how I should do things, then it's likely going to be either a conversation or, that's putting you in a position to get ghosted, depending on the value that I have in the person, right? Because if I don't really value the relationship, it's not worth it to have these conversations. And I hate generalizing, and it's something I'm learning to do less of. But listen, it is not always easy for us men to be in the position of having to reject a woman. And when it happens, a lot of times we're not met with the most warm environment. You know what I mean? So we can, and it doesn't make it right, but sometimes we will avoid the conflict. And that's when, women, sometimes you're like, why did I get ghosted? Well, this is why. Either there wasn't a mutual attraction, or you were coming on too strong and he tried to tell you in little ways, but it wasn't, he couldn't figure the words out to say it directly. Not everybody's direct. I tend to lean more on the direct side, but not always. And again, it depends on who the person is. It depends on the relationship, and how much I value it will determine if I'm going to invest that much energy to sit down and explain to you, hey, listen, you're going a little too fast, too hot and heavy for me. But if you borderline disrespect, or you are disrespecting me, You know, I know Eric didn't see the show, but you know, one of the young ladies in the most recent episode was very disrespectful. She called him outside of his name, was berating. Oh yeah, at that point we're gonna talk. It's gonna be a quick stop. Like, listen, I get you might be upset, but at this point, this is not how we engage in communication. So I'm gonna thank you for your time, but we're gonna stop talking, because this early on in an interaction, for you to get to disrespect, for me, that's a red flag, and it's a non-starter. So
I actually want to ask Eric about this because you and I got into a discussion, Sean, before that. You know, women are emotional, and you guys don't want to hurt our feelings. So, and to me, I said, be direct with me. You know, let me know. But I also would not have. I'm never going to emasculate a man. That's not what I do. But I did see that, and it's so interesting. Because Eric and I got on in the same conversation about the emasculation of it, and there's a way to deal with it. So, Eric, going to you, when do you stop entertaining it? If you're like, oh, I love the way, you know, she caters to me, and I love the way, you know, she is really attentive to me and everything, but do you fear hurting women's feelings? Do you fear that emotional outburst? Go ahead, Eric.
Me personally, I don't fear it. However, I think for those who like are more mature in you know, development, you know, developing themselves and working towards continuing to being healed, it's if you're going on, let's say if you're going on a date with a woman and something like similar to what you're saying happens, I think it's okay to have the mature conversation. You know, even if you're having the conversation about, you know, things, the values, things you do like, you don't like, you know, expectation or whatever the case may be, just say you want to date or whatever. I think it's okay to say, hey, this is not a good fit, because some people, men do ghost because of that, because they fear not wanting to reject her for whatever reason that they have. They may do like her for whatever reasons or whatever the case may be, but there's a reason for him to just ghost her, so you don't have to deal with it. You don't have to deal with the yelling, the cussing out, the some men respond differently, so they don't want to deal with it. And once you and you're at that position to have the just have, you know, if it's not a good fit at the beginning. So
Eric, go ahead and park.
Yeah.
I can't. You're breaking up a lot. You're breaking up a lot.
Oh, really?
No, I'm gonna go to Onu and go get to another spot. I'm gonna go to Onu. Onu, I have. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm scared of hurting women's feelings, especially if I feel like I'm attracted to them, because again, no one likes rejection, and it's just like sometimes you don't know how someone's going to react, especially when their feelings get hurt. So again, it's a very tough. It's a very tough situation. I'm getting better at it. Just allowing women to know exactly what things I feel uncomfortable with. Because again, sometimes when things aren't going well, it's kind of hard to just address the elephant, address the problems you have initially. And sometimes when that happens, just festers and comes up down the road. I feel like it's better just to address it, just either like over simple as having a phone conversation, put in a text message, something they can read by. So that way, you know, when they do it again, you kind of playing back to like, okay, hey, this is exactly still coming back over again. Sometimes, especially with guys, it's like sometimes we feel like sometimes strength, we kind of focus more on strength in physicality, but not like emotionally. And sometimes words tend to hurt just as much as like physical blows does. And I think especially when we're going back to the Camille Courtney situation, everything was all good and dandy until Camille called him a country whatsoever. And then you saw the change in that boy's face and tone. I was like, okay, like if maybe he was very timid, didn't know how to address exactly certain things going forward. But I guarantee you by next episode, you're going to see him put his foot down. Like, hey, you know what? It's one thing. You're not going to disrespect me. You know, maybe you can get away with, you know, with advances. You might be able to get me touch my shoulder. You know, tell you to attract to other people. But what you're not going to do is not going to respect me. And I see myself in that situation. Like, you know what, I will let women get too far. But it wasn't until like my emotions were hurt that, you know what, I'm gonna have to step up for myself, because if I don't do it at this particular point, no one else will. And that's a hard space to try. I mean, that's a hard space to travel. It's not something as simple as like, okay, just gain confidence. You have to know what you want to say, being firm in what you're saying, and be able to stand in that conviction and not be swayed.
Tia Maria, I think that Onu did answer this question a little earlier. He said that so with the access to so many women provided by online dating, and not just online dating, as you guys know, I'm here in Atlanta, and we outnumber the men substantially. Do the men feel that even for attractive women, their tolerance for crazy behavior is pretty low? I'm not even going to say crazy, or your tolerance to put up with more. And that's actually where I was kind of leading, because you were just talked about the gentleman on the show, and I thought that he had an immediate reaction. So, and hopefully Eric can hear us, but like, he was just, the emasculating is what killed me. Like, and when I say not just emasculating, but calling him a dumbass, calling him, she said, called him a dumbass, a country bumpkin, and then mocked him. And I was like, oh my gosh. So to me, I was like, that's an immediate like retreat. You know, you need to just get up and walk away. But he smiled, but you could tell that his whole demeanor changed. And I said, are you going to still entertain this behavior? And I wonder, like you said, you just said you're scared of hurting a woman's feelings. I think that her crying, I think that immediately after the emasculation and then the crying, that's why I asked the question about, is it confusing? What do you say about that, Sean?
So that whole setup was a case study in manipulation. You know, you're going to go from berating me, disrespecting me, and then you're going to go to crying. Like, I would have zero tolerance for that. Like, and this is the one thing I've learned a little bit, is I've interviewed people who have been on reality shows. Sometimes people show up differently on camera than they would in real life. I won't assume to know what Cornelius might do if there were no cameras there, in terms of, you know, what kind of conversation he would have with her. Because listen, it's the reality for both, you know, black men and black women. We are conscious when we're on camera. Even just sitting in front of this panel, you know, there are thoughts running across my mind about things that I want to say, but I want to make sure it's positioned correctly, because that lasts forever, right? I make a misstep, I misspeak, it can be spliced, diced, and then I come off a particular way. So I definitely know that if I were in that situation on camera, it would be a different thing than if I was there in person with somebody who did that. For her, like, if I were to see that, whatever my reaction would be on camera, I would not ever want to deal with somebody like that in real life after that point forward. Because if you show me you can go from that quickly to anger to tears, that shows me it's a whirlwind of problems in a relationship down the line, and I want no parts of it. The disrespect alone is enough for me. But those two things together, there's no even way to mitigate that relationship in my mind. So that for me is master manipulation, using tears to kind of, you know, dull the response that you're going to get, gain sympathy, and erase the fact that you just were completely disrespectful.
So I want to go to Eric. Eric, are you back?
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. So Sean just touched on something, and knowing that you don't watch the show, but do you, and I was gonna ask this about women, what you gentlemen think of women, but I'm gonna turn it on to men, as Sean just said. Do you think men lack a certain amount of discernment when spotting manipulators, or someone or a woman that is skilled in the dark arts, skilled in the manipulation? Do you think that men lack discernment? When she's pretty, or when she's able, or when she's, or when you've already shown interest? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I do. That's a good question. I think it depends. I think it's the different things tied into the connection you have with the person. Sometimes it is the looks. Depends on. See, it depends on. Every man is different. So it depends on what his interest is and what he like. He may like a good looking woman, so he could overlook some of the bad attitude and different things like that. Not saying it's right, don't get me wrong, but some men may overlook that. You know what I mean? If they have a great connection, he may overlook it. So I think part of it is making sure that you're growing and developing, and if you have things that you need to heal from, to heal from them things as well, because once you start developing and you're healed from a lot of past traumas and different things that you went through, you figure out who you are and what you want. And when a man gets to a point where he's developing and he's continuing to grow, he's healed, and he knows what he wants, he's assertive in his goals and everything that he's trying to do when it comes to relationships, he's not going to tolerate it. I don't care if she look like Beyonce or she look like whoever. Once he understands who he is and what he wants, he's going to be able to be like, hey, no, this is not a good fit for me, or hey, he's going to put his foot down and make sure that he's assertive in what he wants, regardless of who the woman is. So, I mean, I think that's important to make sure that we are all as men are just growing and developing, and it sounds like a cliche, but it's real, being healed and growing and developing. And then once you do that, you're more keen, because the reason being, because now you're more aware of yourself and what you do and your actions and your characteristics. And once you become more aware and fixing things about yourself, you can pick up easily from new people you meet, or even learning from the past relationships and experiences that you had with previous women. And now the new women that you have in your life, you're like, okay, this is not for me. Because you at a point, you can, like you said, the language use discernment and able to pick up on that stuff. Be like, I'd have been through this with Keisha, or I'd have been through this with whoever else, and able to discern that and be like, okay, this is not a good fit for me. Because most men that get to that point and that level, they're not going back and reliving, rehashing the things that they did in those previous bad relationships. So that's my take on it.
So Onu, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Eric, but okay, Onu, you're out, you're dating, you want to date with intention, as we spoke about before, but you also said that you're afraid of hurting a woman's feelings. So at what point do you say, you know what, she hasn't healed yet? Do you put up with the not healing?
Well,
Do you
I mean,
put up with
so
someone that's not healing?
just because I'm afraid of hurting a woman's feeling doesn't mean I'm not going to do so. I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm going to be cautious in the words I have to say.
So what would be those words that you would have to say?
Well, like I would instead of, I mean, it's not okay just to say exactly if you're uncomfortable situation, you're going to have to say exactly why. So like, for example, with Cornelius is going to have to say like, hey, the fact that you're saying that we're together and we're not together, I mean, that's very ingenuous, especially if I don't have the same feelings you have. I mean, that's the level of conversation you're going to have. Most guys are not going to say that. He's just probably can say, you know what, I'm not interested. It's going to skate around the bush. If you keep an opening, just a small opening, a woman will go run through it and figure out a way. And that's the thing with Cornelius. We don't know exactly what he's going to do. If he doesn't tell her exactly how he feels and puts in a way where she feels she has hope, that's going to be the problem. I don't know. I know for sure Cornelius likes Camille. Is he in love with Camille? Probably not. What's he going to say? Is he going to say something that's going to protect her heart, or it's going to be as just affirm exactly the same exact situation is going to be? Most guys, especially if they're not interested, are going to be able to say that. But some, especially if they're in that beta sigma mindset, they might get away from it, and that's the key thing. Like I've been on the other side of telling someone I'm not interested, not telling someone I'm not interested with them, giving them false hope, so they just continue around to see exactly how things play around. If I know I'm not interested, I just have to be a man, just like, you know what, this is the way it's going to be, and walk away, and make sure that conversation is the last conversation, not like lingering for another month or two.
Onu?
Yes.
Do you FaceTime women with your shirt off?
No. But again, like, how do we, again, no. But at the same time, it's like, we have a lot of problems with Cornelius here. Like,
so let's go back. So, okay, so You have given her, so in the first, let's say 2 weeks, you have given her the impression, not knowing if she is impressionable, not knowing that she's going to go from 2 to 200 in 2 weeks. Do you give her your data? You're out there. Do you go all in? Do you go all in?
When you go in, what do you mean? Say we're together. Let's see how this thing.
You give her the impression that you are that she's the one for you.
If I feel that we can, if I feel like if we can have a controllable conversation in public and out of public, like I don't know what's going behind closed doors. That's one thing, but in public, we know definitely right now there's something else going on. She's very unstable with her emotions and how she's presenting herself to other people. That doesn't happen overnight. Now, I don't know exactly what Cornelius is behind the scenes, and again, if you're all insinuating all this t-shirt nakedness on FaceTime and all these other things, we don't know how far this thing goes. However, I'm going to say in my past experiences, I know people who behave like that typically have something on a sexual level that's not have worked out, and that might be complicating a relationship. And if that's the case, then I don't know. More help to that brother.
Sean, do you FaceTime women that you're interested in, just starting to talk to, with your shirt off?
I mean, no, but I mean, I don't know the context of the situation. You know,
So,
I mean,
no.
I have a Peloton, right? So sometimes I work out on my Peloton with other people. And could I be in a tank top? Sure. So just because if we're dating and you have a Peloton, you know, if you had a Peloton, Crystal, and we were dating, we might work out together. So that's not an indicator of, okay, I'm in love with you and we're ready to move to the next level and be committed. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't think we need to have some words that match up against that action. Sometimes people have sex on a first date. That don't mean we're together in a relationship, you know? So that doesn't give you a license to go all in with somebody until you've put words to whatever you think means something.
So that's actually where I'm going with it. That doesn't mean anything. A person that you're just talking to, you're walking around the house like you just got out the shower. Eric, same question for you. I know this is like we're making it a little light on it, but you start FaceTiming a woman when you just got out the shower with your shirt off. Would you do that, Eric? He's gone again. Oh, he's back. Eric, can you hear me? If you say it depends one more time.
We're going the spirit of Teddy Riley lives on.
Oh, Eric can't hear. Eric is out. So I'm going to move it to submission because this is so interesting to me. I really want to know what the word submission means to you gentlemen in a relationship. So if you're we got Eric back, I think. So you're in a relationship, right? It's past the 2 weeks. You're now FaceTiming with your shirt off. We're on the Peloton. We're exercising together. What does submission mean to you, Eric? What is the word submission as a man? What does that mean to you? What does that look like to you?
Okay, I came in kind of late. So you talking about submission for as a woman to a man?
Yeah, we moved it to submission. I was gonna ask you, would you if you were just meeting a woman? Okay, I'll change the question back because I get
no, that's good. I can stick with the submission. That's cool.
Okay, let's go.
So for a submission, wow, what does that look like? I think for some men it's maybe differ and depending upon what they're looking for. But I think some common things for a submission. I don't. First of all, I don't. For speaking to women, I don't want them to take it as something negative when or women say or a man say prefer submission. You know what I'm saying? I actually think it's a good thing depending upon how you look at it, right? Because number one, I mean, of course, the woman want to submit to the right man. But I think some of the common characteristics is being feminine, not coming off too masculine to a man. I think also being a good listener, being understanding, being considerate, because versus a masculine woman, she don't want to, may not want to hear everything he got to say. She thinks she know everything, so she's gonna do the way she always been doing. But I think for a submissive, and what ties in being submissive, being a feminine woman, understanding, like I said before, just being considerate. Are some of the core pieces to being able to work with your partner. And when typically women like that, we're calling submissive, feminine, whatever you want to call it, they're more willing to be able to work and cooperate with their partner, so they can be successful in whatever they're trying to do. They're again, they're good, great partners, willing to listen, willing to make adjustments when needed, versus some women who are not, I guess you want to call masculine, or not want to be submissive. It's hard to deal with them. It's almost like tug of war. You're fighting against each other. You're competing against each other. Nothing's getting done. But for a submissive woman, she's always willing to work with her man, support him, encourage him to be the best version of himself. And in turn, by her being submissive as well to him, he's also is going to put um, things into her, whether it's finances or whether it's just presence, being there for her, all that great stuff as well. So it's going to be reciprocated either way. But in this day and time, I think it's been something difficult when it comes to men and women. Men and women. When you say the submissive word, it's like a red flag. It's like, no, that's not us. XYZ. But I think it's actually a great quality to have as a female.
Sean, Eric just said she thinks she know everything. What do you think? What does that mean?
Why are you asking me? Ask Erica. Don't pull me in. No, but I get what Eric is saying for sure. Like there is a spirit of I know it all that some women can exhibit, especially if they've reached a certain station in life where they have a certain amount of career success, education. It's very hard to pierce that veil and have a conversation with them, have them be willing to listen to a thought that is different from them. So yeah, and you touched on it earlier, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to shake the table that early, but I'll go there. You mentioned this whole pretty privilege thing, and I get it. It certainly does exist in some aspects, right? But I think there is a certain narrative that is driven, and a lot of times, in our community, where everything has to fall into a category. And sometimes it just gets to be exhausting because everything falls in a place. Is it toxic masculinity? Is it pretty privilege? Is it, you name it? Is it narcissist? Like everything falls into a category. And in a lot of instances, it falls like into a space where, some type of man can be thrown into that bucket for something that we're doing that's just not right. So there's women that do operate in, not all, not you, Crystal, but there's some women that operate with this thing. And so every time they see something, whether it's on a TV show or in a dating interaction, they're like, oh, you're doing it. You just let her do it because she's pretty. No, relax. Like everything's not that serious. Sometimes we just messed up. Sometimes we made a bad choice. Don't throw me in a category to throw me out and, pair me up against some other person that you were in a relationship with that made a mistake or did something wrong. So I just feel like that's a problem. So I would say yes. I know that was a long-winded answer, but yeah, that is a spirit that exists where women just like, oh, you can't tell me nothing. I got all my stuff together. I got this, I got that, I got this. So the minute we may say something or give an alternate opinion, it gets shut down, pressed down, and thrown in a category. So I do feel like, there are some women that operate like out there like that.
I actually will agree with you on that. And going back to something that that I saw last night, a lot of people that's on RTL, she's tall, light skin, I'll say, beautiful hair. Courtney, she's beautiful, woman, and they were calling it, oh, that's pretty privileged that she can just exude this type of energy and she's getting away with a lot. I didn't see it as pretty privilege, so that's why I asked that question. But it's so interesting. Another podcaster, Misha, said that has masculine energy. So I thought that was very interesting as well, that she's exuding this sexual energy to a man who says that he wants to wait to have sex, specifically to him. So I said, if a man says that he wants to wait to have sex and you are, got your hand on his knee and definitely caressing it in a suggestive way, I think that is something that that's interesting to me. So I will go back to Eric, give Onu a second to come back in. Eric, Light just asked, do you believe not being submissive and being masculine are the same thing? Eric, are you here?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You said not being submissive and masculine the same thing?
Yes. Do you believe not being submissive and being masculine are the same thing?
I think that's a great question. It depends on how that individual defines submissive and not submissive versus masculine. But I can give it a shot. I think that typically, if someone asks that question, in some cases, they may be more towards the masculine side. In some cases, because I gotta understand when you ask that. If you want to, Crystal, you want to define that when you say not submissive, so I can
Yeah,
give a more clear response
so
to you.
you did mention masculine when you were previously talking,
Hmm.
and yeah, so not being submissive and being just on the more masculine side is the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not submissive, and a lot of things he said before, which is accurate when it comes to a lot of masculine women. And if you're not going to be submissive, then yes, you're going more towards masculine. If you don't want to cooperate with your man, if you're not trying to be a purpose partner, you're not trying to cooperate with him. Even if you disagree, being respectful when you disagree with him, so y'all can come up with a plan together to make sure it's right for both of y'all. Being masculine, you don't care. You're gonna do what you want to do. Hey, if he come, fine. If he don't, I'm gonna do what I want to do anyways. But when you're talking about being submissive, it's a feminine woman again. It's a woman that's willing, willing to listen, not just hear and then wait till you finish to have a rebuttal, but to listen and think through what he's saying and does it make sense to see if it's okay, but I disagree with you, I agree with you. Hey, this is what we can work towards together to make it happen. Versus masculine, you can speak all day. She's gonna wait. As soon as you're done, she got a rebuttal. As soon as you're done, she got a rebuttal. And it's just a competitive type of energy. When you talk about submissive, it's more of a compassionate, understanding type of energy where when you're working with him, it's going to be reciprocated. And I think some women don't understand that and see that. When they come off as masculine and not submissive, he's typically going to give the energy back. If he's not a pushover, or especially if he's an alpha male, he's not going to take that type of energy from a masculine, quote unquote, alpha female. He's just not going to take that. And a lot of times in those type of situations, the relationship won't work. And then when a relationship don't work, there's no good man out there. And then if just going into this as well, I feel of either or, male or female, but since we're talking about submissive, I'm gonna say this. A lot of times when you're going into a relationship and you go into multiple relationships and you realizing the same men are telling you the same thing, then you might want to go back, get therapy, do reflection, go through healing to figure out what the issue. Because most men and some of the women that are masculine want these alpha males who's not going to tolerate their masculine energy. And just being honest with you. But when they come in feminine, they come in willing to listen. They come in willing to cooperate because he's going to reciprocate what he gets from her. She's going to get more out of him. I'm not saying like she's trying to play him or he's trying to do whatever the case may be, but she's going to get more out of him being a submissive woman more than being a masculine woman. Masculine is more like competition, and then submissive is more like we're a partner. We're playing a tennis match. We're not competitors. You on one side and that I'm on the other side. Let's see who can compete and win. It's gonna be like, okay, we both on the same side of the net are going against another team to try to win. And when it comes to that, you're more willing to see him win, and he's more willing to see her win. But at the end of the day, we're made as men, which is masculine. Women are made as female, which is feminine. And we are understanding and self-aware of our roles and what how we are and what we want to do, then we will be able to work with each other better. And that's the point. That's why so many submissive women have husbands, because they're more willing to listen, to cooperate, to and when I say submissive, not that she don't have her own opinion and that she don't agree. That's not what I'm saying. She can disagree in the household, but like, hey, I disagree with this plan you're trying to do. I know you say you want to move to Texas. I know you say you want to do this XYZ, but what about family? What about this? She's gonna have those conversations with a masculine man. And guess what he's gonna do? He's gonna listen to his wife. He's gonna listen to his girl because she's submissive and she's giving off the right energy for him to think through it, so he can take her in the right wherever they're going, that he can take her and protect her and make sure everything's good. So when we get into this, it's an important piece when you say submissive and masculine, and a lot of submissive women is just what it is. They have husbands because again, they're willing to work with this man to make sure he's successful, to cooperate with him, and all that other good stuff. Understanding, considerate, and the whole nine. So that's just my take on it.
Okay, I'm going to ask Onu. We're going to come back to that a little bit. But Onu, what does the word submission in a relationship mean to you? What does a woman being submissive mean to you?
I think to me, I think submissive is agreeableness, like the ability to actually listen to what I have to say and give an actual thought, or give an actual argument or actual thought about that. It doesn't always having to agree with what I have to say or what I want to do, but being able to be able to be able to stand in their own conviction and say, you know what, this doesn't sound right. Maybe there might be another way, or maybe there's something else we can do in order to get to pick a destination. I think what I think one of the troubling things when it comes to men, especially when it comes to submission, guys think that their way is the highway and whatever they have to say goes. Whereas you, versus working with someone else or trying to figure out what's the best way that's going to suit both partners. Like, for example, it's like the difference between checkers and chess. In checkers, you're just trying to move down the board, and it's a linear progression game. You can move fast and forward, but the key thing is to make kings and take away pieces. Whereas in chess, the key thing is like the objective is, again, you want to put the other person in check, but each pieces have different units or different values to them. Yes, everyone wants the queen has the highest value on the board. However, the most important piece is going to be the king. The better you get at chess is how fast you can take away the other players' pieces with the least amount of moves. But again, in order to do that, you have to be able to cooperate, understand how things move around. If two people are in agreement or understand exactly how to move, they don't have to actually talk things out. Maybe things could be nonverbal. Maybe they don't need to have a lengthier discussion to decide certain things. Or if they have to come from the same background, it's kind of easy to have a particular agreement. When things aren't that way, then maybe there might be more arguments or might be disagreements where it might take more time for them to get on the same page. I think that's the issue, especially when we have dating now in Western society. Sometimes we're not always on the same page. For us to come to agreement and be able to feel comfortable with each other, something has to give. Now, when it comes to submission, some people like, you know what, I can take a backseat and follow somebody else's lead as long as it doesn't demand me. Whereas some people like, you know what, I want to provide input. I want to be able to feel like my voice is heard. I want to make sure that my opinion matters. And I think we're seeing a shift with women, especially in the last 50, 60 years, going from, you know what, I'm just going to sit behind and let the man make all decisions to like, you know what, this is going to be a joint decision. I think it always matters, and this is what I want to do. And that's some men might see this losing its power, but I think it might be a different way of how to lead or how to manage relationships moving forward. I don't think it's your objective in 2021 just to shut a woman's opinion down, but but actually figuring exactly what they have to say and how can y'all both get the same destination together. Because again, it's you're supposed to be working as a team. It's supposed to be a unit. It shouldn't just be okay. My husband says this, my spouse says this. That's what we're going to do. I don't know any. I based on all my friends I talk to, I don't know many women who are just like, you know what, I'm gonna have no say in decisions that affect my household or affect my life. We're just gonna do everything he has to say. It's just not the case.
I actually agree with Onu. So, and I wanted to show and I wanted to say what I thought to me as a woman. I think it is a verbal communication, and sometimes I would like to have an input, but I don't mind. Hey, I'm going to stick beside him. If this is, if we got to move, then we got to move, and if we've got to, I'm going to hear him out, and as long as he's hearing me out, if we got like two kids and a dog, and I need you to understand this is what I need in this scenario. I understand what you need in this scenario, but I will follow my man's lead in certain situations. But I do want to go. Seaway had a great question. Thank you so much for joining us, Seaway, because Seaway always brings the heat. So and Tia Maria actually had something else to say, which was so interesting as well. I'm going to go to Eric now. Are men to be submissive to their women as well? If this was, are men to be submissive to their women as well? In any instance, Eric, what do you think of
Right.
that?
Is that question directed to me?
Now it
All right.
is.
Yeah, no, I think when it comes to being submissive, um, like I was saying before, when it comes to being able to cooperate with your man, listen, all that great stuff. And this is what I said. I hope people didn't miss this. I said it's going to be reciprocated. So what you're giving off to him to be able to be his full self, fully who he is, his goals, what he's trying to pursue, he's going to give that back to it could be tenfold, Crystal. So what I'm saying is we say is he's going to be submissive back. If you want to say the word submissive, use that tone. Of course, he's gonna reciprocate back to her what he's getting from her. And the point I was making between a feminine and a masculine woman is, in most cases, a masculine woman is not trying to be cooperative. It's more of a competitive type of energy, opposed to cooperative. But when you have someone who's trying to cooperate and work with you, they're gonna give you back that. So when you say submissive, that's a no-brainer. He's going to definitely give back, if not more, back to her, whether it's her goals, she may be trying to pursue something, he's going to put, whether it's financial, being supportive of her goals, different things that she want to do. Guess what? He's going to now listen to her and see what she's trying to accomplish and what she's trying to do and be a support to her as well. So not that, okay, she's being submissive to him, he's controlling her, she's doing everything, yes sir, no sir. I didn't say that, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when she's submissive, most time versus masculine, it's just what it is. It is what it is. She's more willing to listen, understand, and cooperate with him. So of course he's gonna listen to her back. Of course he's gonna do for her, if not more than what some of the things maybe she did for him. But he's gonna give back a lot more. Opposed to a woman who's masculine, he's not gonna have the energy because he's too busy arguing with her. So he probably not have the energy to give back what he needs to be, or be submissive as we should say, back to her. So that's my take on it, Crystal.
Got it. Crystal stepped away for a moment. She'll be right back, but clearly we know that this submissive word it is triggering, especially for the ladies. So I don't, that might have to be a whole nother. Maybe we need to get some of the ladies in here to kind of get some back and forth dialogue around our concepts of submission and what that looks like together in a relationship. But one of the things that Krista wanted to also talk about was competitive energy in women. So Eric, you touched on that, and I think sometimes this happens in relationships, where we get the feeling that we are on opposing forces. And I think there's a better way for us to communicate. So I've seen it, whether it be in relationships of my own or in others that I've witnessed, where there's almost like a back and forth. And every time I do something, I say something, you got to do something to match that. Right. So we're not at a point of trying to resolve. We're just like, okay, so I'm gonna outdo you. I'm gonna outmatch you. You know, if you do something well, I want to do it better. If you make a mistake, well, it opens the door for me to do that same mistake. So I think we need to get more on this same team concept versus trying to compete with each other in our relationships. That's my thought about it.
And
Go ahead, Eric.
no, I was listening to him. I agree with what he was saying. Go ahead, Crystal.
No, that's he does have a Sean does have a point that if we're constantly competing with each other, excuse me, how are we going to have that understanding? How are we going to have that equal understanding? And how are we going to learn where to submit? And I think that that's what Onu was saying is there's sometimes when then I'm going to need to submit and I'm going to need to listen and understand. If I'm constantly having to or wanting to be in challenge or competition, then where am I going to learn to submit and vice versa? Yeah, but I do wonder, you know, Seaway did touch on something a little earlier that is there any instance where a man would submit to a woman? Onu? You're on.
Hello.
I'm
Yeah,
here.
you stepped away. I was like, once I heard that Seaway's question, it kind of triggered my Bible. It kind of triggered Bible study. But I think so. Yes, I think it was kind of, again. This is kind of like falling back to like 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Like I remember like what my pastor was trying to say. I just went back and read it. It's like, yes, God wants men and women to submit to each other, but at the same time, we want to be respectful of each other. I think that's the key thing. Sometimes we're not respectful of each other or what the person's going to have to lose in order for the group, or won't have to lose in order for the group or the collective to succeed. And that's the whole thing. I think the word, yes, if you're going to be a committed, you're going to be married, you're going to have to submit to you're going to have to submit to your wife. You're going to have to listen exactly what to say and understand exactly what she's going to have to give up in order to get what you want. You can't just tell her, hey, this is what we're going to do because I'm the man in the way of driving. Again, it doesn't matter. Again, even in the church mindset, like just because you pay the bills, just because, you know, you're the one who's paying the bills, you buy the house, etc. She's still going to have to give birth to your children. She's still going to have to raise your children. She's still going to have to go to the grocery store and get groceries. Still things she's going to have to do that you're not going to do, even in a traditional mindset. Now, in the modern mindset, the key thing is it's like, okay, if it comes to careers, if it comes to, let's say, locations, maybe there might be more lucrative location across the country that might make more money. However, your spouse is going to be hindered. He might not be able to provide as a unit, and you might have to go to a different city, or you might not be able to move to where you want to go to. That's something you're going to have to consider. Now, if your husband gives you the curse, like, you know what, hey, you know, we're going to give up, we're going to go this because that's what's best for us, that's fine. But at the same time, if he is not there yet, and if there's going to be some time of grief, you can't just do things that's going best for you, especially when you have a husband that you have to report to or live with, or you have children, or with children, family unit. And I think that's the key. What we're seeing now, people are more selfish in what they want to do, and sometimes, especially when it goes to their spouses, they're unwilling to give certain things up. It's always what I accumulate for me versus we. And I think that's the issue, going back to what Siwa has to say. Yes, as men, you have to understand if the objective is I'm looking to get a wife, I'm looking to get a white person, certain things. There's certain things you're going to have to give up on the day-to-day basis in order for that make that situation work for as long as you want it to work. And that's the key thing. You can't just go into like, hey, everything is. Now, I think on the flip side, a lot of women are like, you know what, I've accumulated all these certain things. I don't want to give certain things up, or I don't want to put in a situation where I'm not going to be free to do things that I've grown accustomed to do so because this guy won't let me do this certain things. Again, that's a conversation that I think we're tend to have to have. And I think that's the cross in the new age or what we're seeing right now. I'm not sure what the right answer is. I think it's going to be a balance between the two. But ideally, the decisions I have to be more conscious decisions I make, and not just how they affected me, but how they affected people around me, i.e., my spouse, my wife. Is she going to be okay with those things as well versus just me? When it's just me, I'm like, okay, that's nothing for me to worry about. But if I make a decision that's best for me, not best for them, how is that person going to handle it, or be able to deal with those certain things? Initially, it might not be a certain burden, but those things kind of build up over time.
I actually agree with that. That you have to find out how she moves and how that submission is going to look to her and in your situation. And sometimes when we say, "Well, it depends," it depends. Yes, it does depend on that wife and on that scenario. But that's how a man would submit. Is he's looking at the big picture. And I do wonder sometimes, do men look at the big picture and factor in that wife? Because, excuse me, I'm sorry, because a lot of times the men think, and I'm generalizing, not the men on the panel necessarily, but sometimes you think, well, if I'm making money to prepare myself for a wife, but then the wife comes in and she isn't what you wanted, so you're looking at materialistic things. I've got two houses. I have this great job. Like Onu, the doctor, drives now. Got the good car. He's got the not. Let's say you know what? Because I watch Kev on stage. Let's say you're driving a Maserati, and you're a doctor, Doctor Onu, and you've prepared
Tesla, but
Tesla.
okay.
Okay, Tesla. So please make it the good Tesla, not nice Tesla. Anyway,
I'm talking Tesla Perform this.
Okay,
not the Model 3, like not the Corolla.
But so that's for you. You got the Tesla, you're a doctor, you're doing all of these things. And you said, oh, now I just need the woman. Now, like, insert woman here. Do you look at that scenario and say, okay, now I have to make adjustments for what she wants? Are men preparing themselves to just insert the woman because they think that she just wants the money, she just wants the house, and that's it? Are you making those assumptions that I just need to just insert the woman? I've got everything that she's gonna need. Let me ask. You know what? Let me ask Sean.
No, that's not my mindset. I think that if we're building a life together, especially if we're getting married, then we're going to build a life together. Right now, if I have accumulated things and there's things that I have, that becomes a conversation. But for someone who's been married, I don't know that, I would just want to just like plug and play, because you've got two people with two different ideas of what they want to live their life as. And I don't want anybody doing that to me, and I don't want to do that to anyone else. So no, I wouldn't enter into a situation, no matter what I had or what I've accumulated, and just be like, all right, just, join me on this ride. Because that for me is not satisfaction in a relationship. I'm not with a woman just to bark out orders and tell her what to do all day long. And I wouldn't want to be anybody with that mind frame, nor do I think in 2021 there's a woman that exists that way. But look, no is the answer to that. And I think that a life built where both people are content and fulfilled means there's reciprocity, there's mutuality in that relationship. So we need to be doing things together. When I think of submission, what I think of is, in day-to-day life, sometimes there's going to be decisions that need to be made. If there is a disagreement, who makes the final word? Depending on what it is my wife willing to respect my judgment, willing to, in some instances, do something that perhaps she's not willing to do, knowing that my judgment, my level of experience is going to guide us through that decision, right? So that's what I think about. And then I think and of course, it's a two-way street. So the scripture says, husbands and wives, submit yourselves one to another, right? So it's one to another. However, as the man and in a traditional mindset, we are the head of the household. So that's when it comes back to that final word decision. Are you able to respect me if there's something you disagree with? Are we able to work those things out? And what I found that, and I'll end here, is what I found that in relationships, when it works out that way, more often than not, the man is going to make the decisions that are in the best interest of the woman, and in a lot of them yield to what a woman would want ultimately. But I don't think we get there because we just get so stuck at the submission state, and we can't get to what that looks like and how we navigate that together.
Hey, Crystal, and also, can I add to that? Like, and with that being said, because I know the question you presented a
Keep
question
going.
about being. I know. Can you hear me now? You had a question about being submissive, so speaking on submissive. I think it might be, like he said before, triggering words for certain people, so not be able to get past or hear other things we may be saying. But I got a question for you. What do you feel, as a female woman, submissive means? Like, what do you think and feel submissive is?
Uh, I think the submissive is definitely listening to my man, listening to, but also listening to each other in the scenario, like Sean was just saying, that there's going to be times when I'm going to have to, not going to have to, but I would step back and let him manage things. And whether it be that, when I say manage things, I mean the household, or if something does come up, we would have a conversation. I would like my input because I would like him to understand where I'm coming from. But if there was something big, I would definitely heed to what he says. Yeah, I would definitely heed to what he says. I would just like the understanding that I am somebody in this in this relationship, that I'm not just, insert woman here. That there is there's an intelligent woman that has a mind, and that is that we are acting within a partnership. So that's what I would like. That's conversation, and I would like some understanding. And as Sean just said, if we're in a relationship, that he knows that he's acting in that I know that he's acting in best interest for me, and if we had a family, me and the kids and the family, that we are working together to be successful and to build something. So that's what submission means to me. And Tia Maria said something earlier, and I just did not want to forget it. That it's that word submission that means conform. It means like authority, and it means that I need to be meek or obedient or passive. And I want to make sure that he, the man, understands that I'm not meek or passive. That there is that understanding that I am not meek or passive, or that. And see, and that's where, and I was about to say the word assertive. So that's where I stopped talking, because I was like, that's where, things get murky, and we want to make sure that we have an understanding, a mutual understanding there. So
Yeah, and I think, Crystal, that's a good example. But what you're saying at the end as well, I think that's the sticky place, the muddy place where I guess the tensions and people get a little, flustered. Understanding when it comes to meek or authority to someone else, or whatever that individual definition of it is, or whatever it may be. And I think that's the muddy place, and coming up and being able to have effective communications about that. Because I think once you say submissive, or you use some certain examples, is like, I'm not listening, I'm not, cooperating, I'm not, this is who I am. You know what I mean? And I think just having an understanding so we can get past that and work together, is the whole point, is to work together and not just live in the word submissive. And then another thing I will say, and we could talk about it or whatever, but I'm going to say is what is wrong with, if you have a good man in your life who's going to try to take care of you, your kids, who wants the best for you, And if you're married, you have to give his life for you. Why wouldn't you want to submit to that man? Because I know some women say they're not meek and they're not, because submissive doesn't mean the woman is weak. And I think that's one of the parts that ties into submissive that is not true. Because a woman is submissive to her husband and let her husband be the man and lead like a man, that doesn't make her weak. And if she is a meek woman, that still doesn't make her weak. And I think that's what society now puts so much pressure on women, is like being strong 24/7, that they can't be meek, or they can't be submissive, or they can't be these other things, and allow their man to lead and to make sure they take care of them, and that they partner. Again, I know it's a partnership, that they partner. It's like a 24/7 type of, I can't be meek, I can't be this, I can't be that. Why can't you? You know what I mean? Why not? If you have a good man in your life and you want to get married. So that's just my question. Is what it is.
So I'm going to Light's comment first, and then we're going to backtrack to Tia Maria's. She said the problem with the word submissive is that it has been misinterpreted and misapplied and abused by certain types of men. And I'm not saying that those type of men are the men that's on this panel, but the reason why we're even having this discussion is because the word submissive, if I'm submitting to you, then I am, and you see, I even made a gesture with my body, then I am backing down. And it's that misappropriation of that word that's the reason why we're even that, oh, I need to submit to a man. I need to not only let him be the man, but prove to him that he is the man. So go ahead.
But what do you? I got a question for you. So what do you mean by backing down? Can you explain that a little more when it comes to this? What do you mean that you're not backing down? Like, so I can understand as a man. What does that mean?
That I am, as we said earlier, that I am showing that I am not as assertive, or that I am passive, being meek or passive. That my word sounds don't have any power. That he is the only he is the power. That's what I mean by backing down. That if I have an idea or if I have an opinion, that it is not worth speaking on. So that word, go ahead.
And that's the thing. That's why I'm asking you questions as well, as a woman on the panel as well. Is that because of a woman is submissive? Where do her backing down because of the term? And I think maybe getting rid of the term, or not saying get rid of it, because it's submissive, but what I'm trying to understand, if a woman say, okay, if a woman come out, because if it's a man, it's a trigger word, but if a woman come out to other women and say, Crystal, I am submissive, I love my man or my husband, I am submissive to him, what's the trigger? Like, I'm trying to understand so I can understand, and I'm asking you the question, what's the trigger? That doesn't mean she's weak. That doesn't mean she doesn't share her ideas. That doesn't mean she's stepping back. And that's what I'm trying to understand.
Go ahead. I'm gonna let Onu go in. Go ahead, weigh in, Onu.
I think what the misinterpretation is when we say submit. I think, and again, I want to take a even step back. Like, I understand what Tia has to say and Light has to say, and I think that's agree. Submission and trust goes hand in hand. You can't submit to anybody. You're only gonna submit to people that you trust, or people that you vet, or people have your best interest in heart. So if we're saying that we have a young man that's out here showing you exactly why he is of good faith, he's his good character, he's his good value, is willing to lead you in a proper direction, yes, you should be willing to submit to him if you have the same feelings and vice versa. Am I saying you shouldn't submit to everyone? No. We do. I mean, there's a tendency on both parts. We tend to submit to people that we shouldn't do so. Submission looks differently from a man's perspective and woman's perspective. And I think that's the issue that I think we need to address, because there's many points that we can be saying, and we've seen a lot of things, even we're going back to Ready for Love between Camille and Cornelius. just attention can be a form of submission. Like I'm gonna show you my flirtatious side. I'm gonna show you my sensual side. I'm gonna show you this side. I might not show it to everyone, but I might show it to you because hey, I feel trusted, or I feel a safe space. I feel this can I feel I can be myself with you. That could be one form of submission. Submission can be there could be a financial, it could be financial, it could be form of protection. You're my husband. I want to have your children. I want to up along your way, because that could be another form of submission. Submission can be like, you know what, I trust the decisions that you're going to make with us and turn our finances and our well being now and forever. Those are different. Those can be different ways. You don't submit. You're not going to submit to everyone. You're going to submit to a person or the few people that hey have your best interest at heart, and that's the key thing. If we submit to everyone, then again we're going to be led astray. But we submit to if we choose to find the right people and choose those people are, we can figure out what the direction we want to go to. And I think that's the key thing. Submission happens after we build trust, we build a relationship with a person that we know has our interests. That takes time. You can't just submit just right away, or even if you feel like, hey, I'm in a relationship or I've been with this person 6 months, that's still not enough time. That person has to show that time and time again they have your back, and they're gonna have your best interest at heart, even if it goes against them, or if goes against them, i.e., their life, their finances, etc. That's the key thing. A lot of times we don't wait to see those things, or we let the people who might be those type of people go away for people that we shouldn't be submitting to, and that can lead us in trouble.
Onu had a great point that submission comes after trust, and that's what I got from that. Going back to what Tia Maria said, ultimately, I think submission comes down to a matter of trust. A woman won't submit to a man if he hasn't demonstrated that he can/will make the best decisions for her and her family. So it does come after trust. Uh, that's interesting. Because AW,
So,
go ahead.
also okay. So I definitely agree with what he's saying. So you, Crystal. So with that, and I say that because it's a touchy subject that we're talking about, and just so we all can get clarity on this, because I mentioned some of the things he was saying earlier. If it's a good man, if he's a good man, is going to take care of the home, even give his life for his wife or so forth, right? So, if given the example he gave, so you do agree that you would submit to your husband?
Yes,
Okay.
like you said, in certain situations, and I was about to say in certain situations, but yes, I understand that it's important to let a man be a man. It's important that you never want to emasculate a man, but I also want to make sure that I am a viable partner in this relationship and in this marriage. So, or just basic dating. I want, yes. So the answer is yes. And we talked, and we won't talk about it tonight, but I was just, the conversation that we talked earlier about the alpha female and the alpha female. I don't necessarily, that is an interesting subject as well. And is there even a such thing in a relationship as an alpha female? So, uh, in a relationship and being that demanding woman, you really have to know that this a man is listening to you and in the partnership and having the best interest for the relationship, the partnership, and subsequently the marriage. So please, everyone, welcome Black. I keep calling him Black. You're gonna know, but Black Made Media, Corey Black. Thank you so much for joining us in this last leg of this conversation. I so appreciate it. So, ladies, get ready. Corey, what does the word submission mean to you?
Okay. Um, Submission means trust, honesty, and respect. It's not just one generalized thing. I think that in a relationship, you have to have all of that. If you trust your mate, your spouse, if you're honest with your spouse and you respect your spouse, that's still a form of submission. You have to trust the things that he or she says, and it goes both ways. It's not just a one way thing when it comes to submission. So to me, yeah, that's my definition.
You said, okay, honesty and trust,
And respect.
and respect. So if I disagree with you, and this is going back to what Eric was saying earlier, and let's say it's something big. Let's say you want to move the kids to a school that's in a different district. I said no, I don't want to do that, and I disagree. What would that look like to you? Is that submission? Is it, what would that be? Would that be disrespectful? I've already given us kids already. I can take it back. We're going to take it back to
I think
before
your audio
even
went out.
marriage.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So maybe
I
I'm
can't
going
hear
out.
you. Yeah.
Oh shoot, you can't hear me? Can you hear me? Now you're muted. Onu, can you hear me? Onu?
I can hear
Okay.
you. I can hear you.
Okay. Black, let me know that you can hear me.
I guess I can take the kids an example.
Okay, go ahead until Black comes back. So what does disrespect? Would that be disrespectful? Would that be disrespectful if there is a disagreement in the relationship? Does that not look like submission? What I understand that's going to be a conversation, and I understand that that's going to be, uh, yeah.
I don't think it's disrespectful. I don't think that's disrespectful. I think disrespectful would be if I tell you the stuff that I want to do and then you act upon it. So if again, if I'm saying, if you're saying, I guess in this example, our children, I want to move them to a different school district, and you say no, and I put the paperwork in to even though you said no before we have resolution, I put in paperwork to transfer them to school. Or if I refute, or if I refuse, that would be a sign of disrespectful. Or if, like, let's assume we come to agreement of changing schools, and you say, at the last minute, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to something up. That could be a sign of disrespect. If we come to an understanding of what we're going to do, and we kind of back away from or don't do something, that's disrespectful. Us having the argument shouldn't. I don't think that's disrespectful. I think things can get heated, and sometimes emotions can. We might not understand exactly why a particular person feels a particular way. We might become defensive, we might become argumentative, and things like that. But to be disrespectful will be like when I know exactly something needs to be done. I'm not going to do it because it's gonna achieve a personal goal than versus like the goals of the team or goals of what the unit's supposed to be. That's when disrespectful has to be.
So okay, go ahead.
I think in another, so again, I think like in the example, I guess we're going back to Courtney and Cornelius. The disrespectful thing would be like, I think what makes Cornelius be disrespectful is like if Cornelius is this Christian type guy, he's like, you know what, he wants to lead by faith. He wants to lead by faith. He's being celibate, etc. And you're still pushing sexual intellectual on that person, even if that's not he wants to do. To me, that's disrespectful of his faith. Even though he doesn't want to do that, you're still opposed to your entire vote. To me, that's being disrespectful. The key thing here is like I've never heard Cornelius stand up to say like, hey, you know what, this isn't the type of life I want to live. If anything, he's been giving us subtle clues that, you know what, it's okay for certain people to do certain things to him. That's again, to me, that's the issue I have that I'm having with that character with Cornelius in that respect. However, if I'm someone who isn't a sexual person, or if I'm being celibate, I'm not trying to do that, and you're trying to enforce me to be a sexual deviant or me have sexual relations before marriage, that's not what I want to do. That's being disrespectful. If you continue to push that envelope, if I've ever expressed those feelings to you.
I actually hear what you're saying, and I agree with that. That when if a man has set up a boundary, or even if those boundaries are a little liquid, even if those boundaries are a little are fluid, and I still keep pushing those boundaries, I think that's disrespectful. I think that you're not adhering to his voice. You're not you're letting him know that his word sounds don't have power. That's what I'm hearing. So so I actually let me go back to Corey real quick. So you said respect, trust, and what was the other thing?
Honesty.
And honesty. Okay, so let's say another scenario because this has actually happened to me. And not I didn't do it, but a best friend did this. That and this kind of touches on something that else that we watched. That um, she wants to travel and he doesn't. She slowly, even though she has put it in his mind that this is a non-negotiable for her. The next thing you know, she's already booked a year later, she's booked a flight, she has put money away and she's done it herself. So is that dishonest and that's lack of being not being submissive? Um, she wants to take a trip to Jamaica. She would like to do it with you, Black. She wants to go to Jamaica with her man, but he doesn't want to go. She has done it. She's done her own savings and she's done it herself. What would be your uh, what would you do in that situation, in that scenario?
Okay, so to me, in that situation, I don't think that that is um, a part of submission to me, but I think a little bit differently. My views on submission is the core responsibilities and the core outlook of the family of our
Okay.
union. Her wanting to take a trip, fine, take a trip. I'm not that hard to get along with, not that hard
So
to.
that's not dishonest?
That's it. Saying she wants to take a trip and she wanted me to go and I didn't want to go and she booked it herself.
No, but you told her that that's not your part of your plan.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't personally say that. Um, I wouldn't say that was a part of my plan. I would say that if I didn't want her to go, I'd say, hey, babe, I don't want you to go. If she still wants to go, that's something we can talk about. If she wanted to go so badly, I wouldn't necessarily have a big issue with that because it's a trip. Now, if we were to flip that around and put it like towards the family, how our kids are raised, the family dynamic, the husband and wife dynamic, how we build, that will be something I will have more of a say so. That's why I kind of push my words a little bit more. And again, I think you mentioned earlier, it's not to say that she doesn't have a voice. She definitely has a voice. And if her voice speaks in a different direction as mine and it's better, I'm a man, I can say that it's better. So that's why I say submission goes back and forth because I don't always have the right idea every single time. I married a helpmate for a reason. So because I married her, I trust her opinion as well. That's why her opinion is so valued in the first place. So if she comes to me with something of value that that I feel that trumps what I'm saying, then we have that discussion. We'll go with her idea, but it won't be a back and forth just because you have an idea and I have an idea. Your idea is going to supersede mine, or this idea is going to supersede each other. It's not going to be that type of dynamic, at least not in the relationship, the marriage that I want to have, that I want to foster. Does that make sense?
It does make sense to me. Hmm. But you saying that that's a part of the submission, like I think that there are some men that you need to prove that you're being submissive to them. And Light touched on it a little earlier that we feel like that we have to prove to them that they're the man. Do you understand what I'm saying? That okay, go ahead, Black. You're shaking your head.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was listening. I'm sorry. That's my way.
Yeah, that you have to prove to them that they're the man. That you don't think that that's. I have been in this situation that I had to uh, change my plans to prove to him that he is the man, that what he says goes. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that, and I do think that some women run into that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Someone do run into that. That's not my makeup though. Um, I understand that that it does happen. So that's why it's kind of hard for me
I
to
mean,
speak along those same lines because that's not necessarily how I think. Uh, I do feel that a woman has a voice. and the man has a voice, I feel that the woman should not choose to marry a man who she doesn't feel comfortable with submitting to. She should marry a man who she doesn't feel comfortable being honest and have respect for. So because of that, that's a big factor for her because we all know there are a lot of women out here who are dating that say they want a man who can lead. They want a masculine man who can lead. So if you want a man who can lead, you have to trust his leadership. You have to have that conversation with him, see how he leads, see some examples of his leadership. And if you want to be led in that way, if you don't want to be led in that way, he may not be the man for you. But if you like and you respect the way he leads, then once you marry that man, then there's an understanding there. But you can't go into something saying, okay, I like the way he looks, so I'm going to marry him and have no idea about how he leads. And it's off balance with how you would want to be led. So it's very important for ladies to understand that when it comes to submitting to a man, you're choosing to do so by saying I do at the altar. So take that as just as seriously as you would the overall marriage, because that's important.
I actually really like that. That makes a lot of sense to me. But you said something about you were choosing a man that who leads. At the same time, can a masculine man be a crier or be in touch with his emotions or be a little sensitive or even extra sensitive? Can both exist?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Masculinity to me, again, this is me. It doesn't have anything to do with crying or having soft moments. It's that ability to step up when needed for the family, for your wife, for the kids, whatever have you. But that ability to step up without hesitation, that is the purest definition of masculinity to me. So I don't think it's anything have to do with crying because you're watching Lion King or doing anything like that. That's that's petty, you know. So I don't think along those lines.
Okay. Oh no. And then I'm gonna go to Eric. So if a woman, okay, you just said something black that just really kind of that made a lot of sense to me. That uh, the when being able to step up when needed. Um, what if you are a little too emotional? Um, and you don't. A woman is saying that you are unable to be a leader and you're unable to um, be that man to step up when needed. Do you think that you are too in touch with your emotions? Do you understand what I'm saying, Anu?
I think yes. Um, yeah, I think too emotional or like unable to like be firm in your decision. I think going
Yes,
back, what Black
being
has to
able
say,
to right to being able
like
to separate. Go ahead.
being able to make a standard, being firm in your decisions, not being wayward. To me, I think that's the ultimate display of masculinity. To piggyback on or to agree or take what Black has to say, I think even in conflict, being able to stand up to your convictions and your belief, that's the key thing. You might be wrong or it might not be the popular opinion, but the key thing is your ability to make a stand and be able to do exactly what you have to say. If you're a half-hearted or just wishy-washy or just kind of move with what people have to say, that can be seen counterintuitive. And to me, that's when like your masculinity or your manhood can be put in question. It takes a lot of self-confidence to be able to say, you know what, this is what I want to be, this type of person I want to be, and that's the way I'm going to move and do exactly one of those things. And I think women are attracted to that particular trait. I like his assertiveness or his ability to say exactly what he means and do exactly like that. That can be a character trait. What if you I think it can be misinterpreted, people standing up for themselves, especially if they don't have the strength to be able to stand up when the fire hits the fan or when the things get tough. And that's the issue that you run into. So that's the key thing. What for going back to, I guess you see this all the time. I even use myself. Like I might be a shy person, but at the same time, I can't let my shyness be be taken for advantage, or have a young woman like, you know what, this is what we're going to do, especially that's not something I want to do. It's or if I feel like, you know, it's gonna make me uncomfortable, make me uncomfortable, make me be a type of person I don't want to be. If I'm unwilling to step up to them, again, that's that half-heartedness, that's that inability to lead. If I'm like, you know what, I don't like this. This is what I'm gonna do. If we're gonna be together, this is what we're gonna do, and be able to give that plan or give that foresight. It's up to you to agree or not to agree with that decision. I can't just be half open, like, you know, to say no, not right now. I have to be able to say, you know what, this is how I'm gonna lead. This is what I'm gonna do. This is how I'm gonna lead the situation. This is what you're gonna have to do if you're gonna follow by my lead. You're gonna have to be able to show all these things together. It's a trait that you have to learn. It's not something you automatically have. It's a tough subject. But again, that's something I believe most women are looking for when it comes to a spouse. That pushover guy, or that someone that's able to like dictate to them exactly what to do. It might be initially something women might be appeased to, but eventually over time, most women get fed up with those type of guys, or they're going to find someone else is able to give them that challenge, or be able to say, you know what, this is the way it's going to be. That's what you run the risk of.
Yeah, I actually think you have a point, Onu. Okay, so one of the final questions tonight. So, do you think, I'm gonna actually ask Eric, do you think, and this kind of goes back to your last question, we as women have an issue with discerning when it's time for us to submit and when it's time for us to trust our men? Eric, can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Okay,
can
great.
hear you. You said submit versus discernment.
Yeah, do you think that we as women,
Hmm.
me and the ladies in the chat, and we as women,
Uh-huh.
uh, have a problem or have an issue knowing, can do we have an issue discerning when it's time for us to submit, when yeah, and when it's time for us to trust our men? Can do we have a
Submit,
problem
and
submitting
so
to it?
submit versus trust.
Yes, to submit to him
Hmm.
and trust that he's got us, that he is the leader, that he's going to
Yeah.
lead. Do you think that we have a problem saying I need to submit to him and let him lead? Do you
Well, I
think that
think
we
that's
have a
a
problem with
yeah.
that?
No, I think that's a really good question. I feel like it depends on every woman is different. So I think it depends on the woman, just like it depends on the man. I think trust and submission um, runs hand in hand. Typically, a woman that's healed and developing and growing and um, assertive and know what she wants, she's pretty good at discernment. So she's got an idea of whether she's gonna put her trust into this man. You know, if she understands or feels like this is a good man where she can put her trust in. So I think when you say you and the other women, it's just every woman is different. So if that woman, or I will put men in that as well, if that man are going through the correct processes of healing, whether it's personal development, being self-aware, being assertive, knowing what they want out of life, having goals as a man, having vision, all that stuff. Typically, if they come together, two people who are trying to grow and develop, and two people who are self-aware, and of course other stuff that ties within those categories as well, then typically a woman do have a discernment to pick which man she wants to, if you, in your terms, say submit to, because now she feels that she trusts him, she know him, they can build a future together. Again, if it's not someone she feel like she can trust into, then she's gonna have discernment not to do it. But I think it goes on, that goes on both parties, the man and the woman. The man understanding his role, his responsibility as a man, making sure he's healed, making sure he's very self-aware, making sure he's assertive, he has vision, he has goals for his wife or his family, and vice versa. The woman making sure she understands what she wants out of life, that she's healed, and that she's understanding and all that great stuff, and them both coming together, and she's being aware as well. Once she's aware as well, she would know what man to put her trust in, if that makes sense. So I do believe it goes hand in hand, and it's also not just the woman, but it is the man as well. But I do think in some cases, if a woman hasn't gone through certain processes, it's more difficult to submit because of today's social media and how society has made it for certain women to be. So if they are that and some women desire and want to be that, it's almost a shun to a woman to say in a group of women, let's say a woman in a group of women, they raise a hand and say, hey, I submit and love my husband. It's very difficult. It puts pressure on that woman to say that because other women in social media and society shuns that, like even the word submission. So just be an outlier, heal, develop. And I think once a woman is aware, just like a man, she will know and to have a greater discernment on who and be okay submitting to.
Okay, Black, you wanted to chime in on that. Do you think that we as women have a problem letting a man submit?
I would also agree with what Eric said when he said it depends. It really does depend, because you have some women who all they've known is to lead themselves. You have women who all they've known, they've been responsible for the care of their kids. They've been responsible for every single bill that comes in the mail. So they know that they've applied a system to how they want things to work. And to have a man that can lead them, that's what they want, of course. But at the same time, you have to build up that trust to be able to let go of something that you're so familiar with. So it can be difficult for some women to do that because they've lived a lifelong lifestyle of just taking care of business themselves. Unfortunately, the man was not there for them to show that leadership, to show that guidance to. And that comes with a lot comes with that, because when you say you want a man, you say you want a leader, anything a man or a woman wants from their significant other, they have to be ready to receive it. So what that means is that if you're a woman saying you want a man to lead you, you have to be willing to at least be open to trusting him with certain things in your life to just ease on into it. You don't have to trust him with everything in the boat, just a few things at a time. And that's where you can gradually gain his trust, and he can understand where you're coming from as well. So I think it's a conversation, definitely a big conversation to have with that couple, because a lot needs to be understood about what that significant other has been through, to be able to understand and be a little bit more patient when it comes to that whole thing about submissiveness.
Is that why older men pick younger women, because they're more easily to submit and just say, okay, daddy, you do it? Because me as a woman that's done it for years by myself, I'm just going to just get it done.
Well, I can't, speak for the old man in the club. I just going back and speak on is the fact that it is a real thing. Having a woman who's done everything themselves, and it's hard. It's hard for them to submit. And I think that conversation, like I said, with letting their partner know, hey, it's not that I don't want to submit. It's that I've been used to doing this my whole life by myself. And I think to see the response of your partner is equally as important, because if he's willing to be patient with you through all of that, then you have yourself a good stand-up guy. But like I said, the response that he gives is going to tell you a lot about that man. So pay attention to that.
Okay, Sean, what do you think? Do you think that it's harder for we as women to let a man just take care of things and for us to submit as a woman?
Yeah, especially if the particular woman has built a life and has been single for quite some time. I think that a single mindset is very different than a marriage mindset. And as much as, I know we were talking about earlier, things that men need to do in order to make women feel comfortable submitting. And I think all those things are valid, right? To allow a woman to let her guard down. On the other side, once you have that man, and I'm hoping that once you reach the marriage threshold, that you feel comfortable submitting to the man, you now have to do the work And what I see is a lot of women going into marriages wanting to take things from their single life and drag those things into a marriage, right? And some of those things can cross over, but you have to be open to the idea of letting some of those things go. Whether it's a hot girl summer trip that you used to take every year might not work if you dragging all your single friends along to a hot girl summer and you're the only married one. Things are gonna pop off. So yeah, your husband might not be a big fan of that trip, and it's not to control you, but don't put yourself in a space that's going to jeopardize your marriage. And again, it goes both ways, but we're talking about the women right now. So yeah, from a male's perspective, you can't be dragging those same things into the marriage. If you manage your bills and did certain things a certain way and had certain things a certain setup in your home, you need to be willing to tweak some of those things with your man's input. It's not just the same way we can't plug and play with you. Don't plug and play with us and say, okay, this goes here, put that there, put the dishes this way, put that away. Don't do the laundry this way. Like we get to some of these things and it's real life stuff where people get set and fixed in a certain way of doing things. And then when you don't acclimate to that way quick enough, you sometimes can get spoken to like you are a child versus a grown man in your own house. So I think that, we definitely need to be more conscious about how we talk to each other. And women, definitely need to be like, listen, you wanted this man, you prayed for him, you got him. How you going to treat him? You said a lot of good things to get up to that aisle and get down that aisle and get to the marriage. Let's come through with the reality. Let's come through with the actions that match the words that you said. And sometimes this can be a challenge in relationships. We have to have the things that we say match up with the things that we do. So
I actually agree with you that the way I moved in single life is going to be different than the way I move in married life. But at the same time, if I've been doing this for 10 years, are you willing to put in the work and say she's going to get there and don't just like, oh, she doesn't let me lead, I'm done. And that's actually, Tia's asked about real life examples. I have a real life example of that. And again, a best friend, a guy broke up with her and said, you never let me be the man. But she didn't understand what he meant in that scenario. So he just left. He just cut ties instead of actually having the conversation with her and said, this is how you used to move. Now we're together. You need to, we need to move a little differently now, to your point, Sean. So that's interesting. So I do hear what you're saying though, because things changed and now we're down the aisle. Now you're going to have to make some changes. So, Onu, Tia's asking, do you have any real life examples of, because we haven't seen that. Do you have real life examples of couples happily living the submissive dynamic they have described? Unfortunately, we haven't seen it in any of the married couples I know and that I know either.
I typically have to. I definitely look at church. Definitely comes to mind. Sometimes at conferences, like my mentors, especially like that I have at the hospital or that I've acquired through medical school residency. I look how does that coexist with, let's say, two other physicians, not physician positions, physician not physician, how things making certain things work. I think is the thing is, this is a touchy subject. It's not very common to see this success out there, but we all, many people strive for that. I strive for that. I want to be like that, or one of those successful stories. And it's just like, not everyone's meant for those. There's a lot of things that you don't see that behind the scenes that go into making situations like that work. It's just because something looks great on the surface doesn't mean that underneath, or when the doors are closed, there's not bad things going on. So, I wish I had I wish there was a TV example or something in the main media, but I mean, up 2 years ago, I thought, oh, it was like Will and Jada, but then look what happened with that. So I'm just like, hey, um, I try not to put false idols or things out there. And again, if I think of one, I'm thinking I mean, it seems, I guess the cliche would be Barack or Michelle. I guess that would be the cliche answer. But besides, I mean, and yes, there's certain things that happen, don't happen. Like I started reading the Becoming book with Michelle Obama. And, like they talk about like fertility, like how she had trouble, had miscarriages, troubles with abortions and stuff like that. So again, that's something that unless you read the book, I mean, I didn't know that they had to deal with that at the time. So it's a tough one. I wish I had like a more prominent example besides that right there. But at the same time, like you never know. Brock can let us down tomorrow.
Right. God, I hope so. I hope not. God, I hope not. Sean, I think you're the black of you. Are you married?
No, no, I'm not.
Okay, so I think Sean is our only married and now unmarried gentleman. Am I right? I think that's right. Right, Sean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
not sure about Eric, but yeah, no, I'm the only. I think
And
from our previous discussions.
ladies, Eric is unmarried. Just want to shout that out. Just want to put that out there. He's an ebony man on his money. Just put that out there. So, but Sean has a couple examples for him, and so is Dr. Onu. But y'all know that already because I call him Dr. Onu. So, and so is Black. Black Black's the man. So, so Sean, you do have some examples for us. So,
Mm-hmm.
and now that I think about it, and this always happens to me, that as people start talking, I said, I do have about 3 examples of friends that just let our, and I hate the word, I don't know, now I'm starting to hate the word assertive, but strong, decisive women that also let their man lead. So I do have one specific example of that. So go ahead, Sean. You wanted to give me some examples of that, and you wanted to give Tia and some of the ladies in the chat. Go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely have several close friends. I have several family members. When I think about, I have a few close friends that have been married for probably about 10 years. And that's, and again, because they're young, it doesn't look probably like when we think of what that traditional submissive model might have looked like to our parents or grandparents. It's not going to show up in the same way. But there's a clear, there's a clear understanding that, the husband is the head of the household, right? So, but when decision making happens, it's not the husband in a vacuum making a choice and then saying, okay, this is what we're doing. It is a decision made between, the husband and wife. I think about one of my closest friends. Him and his wife were talking about they live in another state. They were thinking about traveling to New York for the holidays. Initially, the wife didn't want to travel because it involved taking the kids out of school for a little bit of time. So initially, the answer was no. But then they rediscussed the decision. They looked at some other holiday plans that they had upcoming, and then together made a decision to change and go to New York, right? To see the husband's family. And this is how these things play out, right? But I think it's all about a conversation. It's all about assessing. The husband initially was saying, okay, I get it. I hear what my wife is saying, but then fleshed it out, figured it out, and they made a decision, to do something different than what was initially decided. But these types of things play out all the time. But I think it comes from that trust that they have built together to let's really talk. I know you don't want to do this, but let's really talk about what's the risk, what is the rewards, and let's figure it out. Okay, yeah, maybe we should do it, right? And this is a small thing, but these are how these decisions are made. But it starts with an openness and a mindset, and not one person being like, I got to get my way and you're not going to tell me what to do and I run the kids and you don't. It's like when you enter into any space, and this is what I've learned in my marriage journey, is if you put up all those walls and you put up all those barriers, everything is going to be painful. Everything is going to be a power play. But if you are like, I love this woman, and for the wife, she loves her husband, right? It's like, look, we in this together. And that same team concept is so important, because once you reach a certain level in life, you get successful, you sometimes view everything through that lens, whether it's the man or the woman, and everything becomes a strategic meeting. You got to present and whoever has the best argument wins. No, sometimes it's like, look, I love you. I don't want to fight about this. At the end of the day, it ain't going to mean nothing anyway. So if it means me sacrificing, I'm going to do it. And it's that ability and the willingness and the wantingness. That's where the submission comes, because you are willing to submit what you may desire to someone else. And that's how you make a successful, long-lasting marriage. And sometimes it's going to be things that make sense, and sometimes it's not, because you don't get to have a forever marriage by just making everything clear cut and calculated, because marriages aren't like that. It just, and I've learned that you can't, everything's not going to be a formula. You push it in and it's going to come out perfect. Sometimes you got to be willing to be wrong. Sometimes you got to fall on your face. Sometimes it's, you look, I don't want to fight about this. If this is something you're that passionate about, it ain't going to kill us. Let's move forward.
Actually, you had a great point. And you just said, if we are always putting up those walls and making a challenge out of everything, then it's going to be a battle, and it's going to be, and making it competitive, as Eric was saying earlier. But I'm going to go to Black. Black, you just said you had a couple examples as well, because the ladies really want to hear these examples of when it's working, when it does work. So go ahead, Black.
Okay, so I just had really just one example that really just sticks out to me. I had an assistant at one point that would take her entire check home to her husband. He would handle the finances, he would manage the bills, he would manage the money, and then at the end of the day, he would then provide her with, some people may say it's an allowance or whatever, but he would give her some money at the end of the month for her to go shopping with, do whatever she wants to with, but he would handle everything else around the house. He would manage the household needs. And she was perfectly fine with that. I think reason being is because he did make more money than she did. So she ended up having more at the end than she would have if it was actual equal split. So that's something that she informed me about, something that she loves it. They've been doing it for about 4 years now, and she doesn't have any problems with it.
That's interesting. I'm a little speechless because, you're right. Some women do look at that as an allowance, and that goes to that submissive and that passive and that meek outlook that we were talking about earlier. And maybe we need to change that word to budget. I don't know. But but I was a little triggered on that. But at the same time, I get it. That works for her. And like you just said, that's been working for her for 4 years, because maybe she is somebody that treats money like water and is always flowing. So if they've already had that conversation, I'm not going to prejudge them, because maybe, she knows that this is the best out. This scenario works best for me and my family and everyone. And I really want to go. Let me ask Eric the same question. Going to what? Do you have any examples of when that does work? When that submission works in a relationship? Go ahead, Eric.
I think that looking at it from different ways. Number one, I have mentors, also people, and that's important as well, to have a good environment of people who are married and who are having successful marriages. And then, take advice and guidance as well from them, seeing what works for you, what and what don't. So yes, I do in long-term marriages, and being a good student to ask those questions. And the thing is, like I know earlier you were saying about people being married or unmarried, or Sean being, whatever the case may be, at the end of the day, the intent, I think, and I speak for myself as well, but myself, a lot of us, I do plan to be married in the future. You know what I mean? So we have been through relationships though. So even though the not that we couldn't have already been married by this time, but we have been through relationships, obviously some that did not work, that we learned from or whatnot. So at the end of the day, as you develop and grow, you know, and be assertive, you know what you want and you know what you're looking for. And by having the right environment and people to pull you to a side, if you're in a relationship or you're going to, you know, talking to this woman to get, you know, serious and get married, to have people who are already married to give you good advice and give you good guidance on certain things. And you're looking at their life and having a close relationship with their life and how they're working with their wives, and some, yes, their wives are submissive, and looking at how and that's the thing I'm saying, that's the point I got to, is that, but being submissive is not weak, because his wife does speak up and say what she got to say. So everybody got their own definition of it. My point is, it's good for women and men to come together and figure out what works best for them. Point blank. Submissive, non-submissive. You can use all the terminology in the world. Every man has their own thing. Every woman has their own thing. And being able to communicate and figure out what you want. And I give you an example. A lot of men, you say unmarried or married, are saying similar things on this talk right now. And if for some reason, you know, whoever's listening, especially like women or whoever the case may be, this is what we want, regardless of, let's say, if we haven't been married yet, or whatever the case, divorced or whatever the case may be. So this is what we want. And at the end of the day, when it comes to being married, we have the access, you know, when it comes to marriage. So if someone is saying, hey, this is what I'm feeling, and being genuine and open about what we're looking for and what we're trying to do, because the past relationships we've been in, and different things of that sort. And if it go by the wayside, or it's like, hey, I want to do X, Y, Z, it's like, you got to understand everybody's different. But if we're all saying the similar things, and that's not the thing that women want to say I'm willing to do, then, you know, from there you have to decide what, you know, make a decision on what you want to do. But for as examples, most definitely, I have friends. I have not only friends, I have mentors who I ask questions, understand what they're doing when it comes to that. And one powerful thing I do learn is that, of course, being able to complement each other, not complete each other, because you want to already be complete, but being able to complement each other, and understanding what goods, submissive, non-submissive, whatever you want to call it, what goods look like for you and your family in your marriage. You know what I mean? And being able to listen and understand, like I said, we all saying similar things. It'd probably be good to listen if that man want to get married, that woman want to get married as well, to each other, and be a team and not fight over the word submissive, or not disagree about the word submissive. Okay, how can we come together? How can we work together? How can we be, you know, how can we grow and be purpose partners together? How can we not just have a love story? Let's have a life story. A lot of people having love stories, but we're not having a life story. And that's what a lot of us are getting through, because myself, as some of the guys on the panel, have been through relationships, whether it's long-term, short-term. We know what we want. So at the end of the day, nobody's going to convince us and say, okay, we're not going to give you that, so we're going to have to settle. No one, no man or no woman should have to settle. So if we want, and this is the things we want, then that's all the things we're going to pursue. Now, if a woman say, I don't want to be that, then that's a decision that she has to make as well. But I think ultimately is understanding each other, have a willingness to work with each other, communicate effectively with each other, to figure out what you both want. And if it's a good fit, pursue it. If it's not a good fit, then, you know, go your separate ways. So that's my take.
I actually agree with what you're saying, and that's why it's so important for me to have these first of all, these gentlemen on the panel, but to have the different perspectives. And that's why I have like men that are in different ages, different perspectives, and different different areas in their life. You know, that's why, and I think I know that's why So Rich, that's why Shanae asked that question, because we want to know who's married, who's been married, who is learning from their past experiences, and who's different age ranges and different places in their life. That is absolutely why I've chosen these men and to give their different perspectives. And Sean and Black and Onu and Eric, they definitely have learned from different places in their life. So it's so important to hear what you guys have to say. That was my last question. That was my last. That was for tonight. I'm gonna have, but something that Eric said is to be purpose partners. That was actually huge, and also something that Sean really talks about a lot is that we can, and Eric spoke on earlier as well, that instead of being in competition with each other and learning how we can grow with each other, and how we can grow each other, see where you are thriving and where can I help you to be successful, and love each other in that. So but each gentleman, please shout out your Black business. Eric, go ahead. I want you to start first, and then Onu, and then Sean, and then Black, Corey Black. So Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, I just appreciate you even having me on the panel. Nothing too much to shout out for is me, but just thank you for having me, Crystal. Enjoy the conversations with the brethren on here, and also the women who are listening in, our men. So I just appreciate the opportunity, Crystal. That's all I got.
Thank you. Go ahead, Onu.
Just want to say thank you again for having me. I definitely appreciate the conversation. Looking forward to have more conversations in the future. I wish I had a YouTube channel to shout out. But
go ahead, Sean.
Sure. So as always, Crystal, love being on your channel. I love the space that you make for us men to talk and really flesh things out. Corey and I always brag about you to Little Black Book. Just the way you leave space and room for us. What I would say before I shout out my little thing I got going on is I think the one thing that I've learned, especially lately, as men, when we're in spaces like this, and even in our friendships that we may have with women, we are learning, we are listening, we are gleaning from you. I just would challenge more of the women to do the same with men in friendships, because you don't have to be in a relationship per se to learn from a man, to hear a man's perspective, and to really listen if you want to. But if every time we enter into discussions, and this doesn't happen here, and this is why I will always and love coming to your channel. So this isn't for you, but it is for some other places. Every time we speak, when we get hit with that ping pong, well, what about men? And what are you doing? And blah, 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 blah. And when we try to explain something to you, you don't listen. And then you wonder why you might be in a relationship and that man exits out. And you're like, well, he never said. Yeah, he might have been saying, but were you really listening? Were you trying to hear what he said, or were you trying to cover what he said with what you think and how you think he should have done it? So that's just a little something that I've picked up along the way. Yes, we all should listen to each other, but I would encourage all those women who are looking to be married in relationships with men. Do you really listen to a man when he speaks? Do you listen to your brothers? Do you listen to your cousins? Do you listen to your male friends when they share things with you? Do you ask them questions? Because you'll get more out of us doing it that way than the other. But, I got a channel, Sean Unfiltered. You'll see much content like what we talked about here. I am also open to engaging, hearing different ideas. I think that's how we grow. And so come on and check me out. And thank you again, Crystal. And shout out to all the panelists tonight.
Go ahead, Black. Corey. Is Corey still there? Uh-oh. I'm going to start talking, and hopefully Corey will come in. I absolutely want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming on. I know that you guys got to go into LBB soon, but we have reached our a little over 2-hour mark. So I really do appreciate you guys coming on and spending the time with me tonight. And one of the reasons, two of the reasons. One, we saw a lady being not a little. She was going overboard to me in my eyes, and I thought about it, and I said, "Gosh, I'm out here, and I want a good man." And when that happens, when a woman is emasculating and literally putting somebody down, then he is triggered, and And when he comes up against a good woman that really wants to grow and learn and be with a good man, that's going to affect him in his future relationships. So that is one reason. And then, I had already programmed the show, but then seeing Sean Unfiltered show the other week with Lauren Melissa, and she said there's a lot of these men's channels, there's a lot of these men's panels on, and I think that a lot of us ladies are seeing the negative channels. We are seeing, and I actually were seeing a lot of these women channels where every other word was the N word, where every other word was a cuss word, where every other word was putting the men down. So, and I really did my research before I said, yes, I'm deciding to do a men's channel. But we're seeing the, what is it, Red Pill, Sean? What is it called? Red Pill. And we're seeing the other guy who I will not name. And we're seeing all of the negative stuff. I said, let me just, before I make assumptions, let me ask the questions. Let me ask the questions and let you know that that's not my experience. But I want to hear, what your experiences are. So that's one of the reasons why. And, when she said, with Sean's interview, she said that she's seeing a lot of the men's channels. And I said, I am seeing those channels, but let's get some perspective from some gentlemen that don't move that same way. Because a lot of us women are not seeing that. We're seeing the other. We are seeing the what's his name, the KSs, and we're seeing the red pill. We're seeing these men that, what do you call it, domestic abuse and all of these other things. So I want to see the other perspective and see how we can move. So with that being said, the next episode of the men's panel is going to be on this dusty narrative, money attitudes in men and dating, and the financially fit man. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. And please go on my channel. And I produced this is a trailer in preparation for a television series. So please check out the trailer, and there's going to be more for me coming soon. Black, are you back?
Yes, I'm here.
You got the last word, man.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for having me, Crystal. You're always a joy to be around. Everyone, thank you guys for tuning in, listening. The men on the panel, thank you guys for sharing your viewpoints as well. Please go and follow my channel as well at Black Made Media. My name is Corey Black. I appreciate you guys. Have a good one. That's it.
Thank y'all. Good night.